Hey guys, so I'm off to the golf course today and it's going to be a long day. I have a great scramble tournament that I'm playing in, but I wanted to talk about the current state of affairs in software engineering and AI lately and what I'm seeing from just people online, videos, podcasts, LinkedIn. Some of it's kind of good, some of it's kind of bad and somewhat indifferent. And there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of, I would say, myths that we need to talk about in a future video, but I wanted to break it into three things that I'm seeing in three camps, if you will. You're seeing like the first camp are, the visionaries, founders, people that have been in software engineering a while. They've proven themselves. They've built products. They've maybe founded or started companies. Evangelists, visionaries, they are the group that is really pushing AI and software engineering. These are also like your top podcasters in the world, like the All In podcast with Jason Calacanis and Chamath Palihapitiya, David Sachs, David Freeberg. Those guys are really pushing AI. Brad Gershner, Eisman, all these guys, they're pro, and some of the market participants as well. I follow markets, I trade options. So I'm familiar with market structure, the semis, the Qs, the SPYs of the world. And so my feeling is I think we really are in the third inning of AI. And I see a lot of tension because of that. On one hand, you have the market that is always ahead of retail and always ahead thinking, forward thinking, talking about revenues. They're already talking about revenues in 26, 27, 27, 28 in terms of can we keep this momentum going? And the financial guys, there's large questions about whether or not the AI trade is over or we're still in the third inning. And companies can still continue to make money for a while, but yet obviously the stock charts and things like that are not going to go up forever. So that's one piece. But I see also there's in the engineering community, there's like three camps of people that I watch and follow because I'm now a, 35 plus year veteran software engineer, built many products. I built many products for large companies, medium companies, small companies, startups. And I spent the last 20 years at a major healthcare insurance firm doing software engineering. And now we have AI that is helping us. And now we have AI engineering and agentic tooling, AI assisted coding. I've been around long enough to see the PC, the web 1.0, 2.0, right? Cloud computing, the internet, boom and bust. And then, microservices, and I won't get into all of them, but basically the whole, all the technological booms and busts and all the technological advancements, if you will, over the years, three-tier architectures, clean architecture, microservices, event-driven architectures. I've been part of all of it, but I'm very surprised, I guess, and which is why I wanted to do this video, that engineering is falling into three camps that I see right now. So you have your visionaries, your evangelists, your founders, your high-end builders where they built products before this. These are very successful people that are really, I guess, they're pushing the envelope in AI. They're pushing people to be better. They're pushing and embracing the tools. They're trying to figure it out. They don't have all the answers. And that's kind of first and foremost is these builders don't have all the answers, but they're on the leading edge, the bleeding edge. They're trying to push the envelope. They're not happy with the state of affairs, maybe. An example would be, I was not happy with agile and safe agile where it was headed. It was cumbersome. It's not fun. Like, being a technical product owner or even an engineer in an agile environment with like, say, Jira and the tools, it's not fun. You get bogged down in doing a lot of stuff that frankly, you're not really focusing on your job as a software engineer. Probably the thing we'll come back to is, what are we trying to solve, right, as software engineers? But so the second camp would be the builders, the software engineers that have been around, or even the newer builders that started maybe early on. So maybe these guys exposure to the AI tools and the sonnets of the world and things like that. And they found out they're pretty crappy. Like when I first picked up the earlier models, what I found was, building a web application was really really sucked, like a React application or an Angular application or any client-based application was terrible, right? AI was terrible at that. But then building kind of like REST APIs and Python and AWS services, which is kind of where most of my background is late over the past. I found that Sonnet and then Opus 4.5 started to get really good at some of the backend, Python, also like CloudFormation templates and things like this. And then moving forward, I was lucky enough to build Flutter applications, which were cross-platform, native iOS, Android, and web. I found that like Opus 4.5, 4.6, 4.7 now is really good at Flutter, and which is, again, a compiled language, which is good. And I was pleasantly surprised to find out that I could build full serverless, Python, AWS, API Gateway, Lambdas, all that stuff that's based on 2 products now that are based on this. So consumer SaaS and then, enterprise SaaS, right? Which is kind of bad. So you have the middle layer of people of their jobs, like or unit testing and things. Probably very different environment right now. If you're still doing unit testing by hand, or you're still creating test cases by hand or manual, it's unit testing the code. But the shift is towards evals and end-to-end evaluations of test cases. Have sys integrated a stage, then a prod environment, then a PFIX environment. It turns out that in enterprise, rightly so, you have like 7+ environments, which is a lot to make almost every engineer unhappy, with releases and preparing for releases and everything, and then throw AI on top of that, the pull requests on top of that. I get it. I get how it can be overwhelming. So that's the people that have basically, unfortunately, kind of written off AI. Either they started too early, or they could basically build chat or ChatGPT, 4 or mini, and then Sonnet like 4 or 5 or 3.5, I guess. I can't remember the first version that I used, and that was only in 2024. So that was only 2 years ago. The models didn't really get good until Opus 4.5, which was something like last fall, like November, maybe Thanksgiving. The models just started getting better. So I get people are frustrated. I get that people are giving up hope and they're burnt out. I see a lot of the podcasts that colleagues that they're not sure. There's a lot of tension. There's a lot of emotions. People that are not software engineers coming into your space, marketing people, project managers, even directors now. And I've heard the stories like people coding, 24 hours a day now, doing pull requests at night, project managers or technical product owners. So I can get how that can get frustrating. I guess in terms of like where I see the industry headed, and myself, I've taken a year off to be a founder, to really focus on AI and agentic and all that stuff. So I was able to take an early retirement to focus on what I wanted to do for a year. And I wanted to reevaluate where AI and the engineering and forward deployed engineers and product owners and architects and AI architects, and basically how our roles would shape up over the next, 2 to 3 years, which nobody knows. But I think people are still figuring it out. Well, what I wanted to just come back to is this is nothing new. What everybody's going through. It's new in the sense that it's here. It's going to be here for forever. AI and LLMs more specifically, because AI has always been around since the 60s, but AI with LLMs have fundamentally changed the way we write code and engineer and how we see the world. Software engineers, we're trained to model the real world, so we might not be experts in every single domain, but our expertise is that our ability to break down complex problems into smaller solutions and to model the real world. So if you really want to get into it, and it's like Fred Brooks wrote that classic paper, Essence and Accidents of Software Engineering, no silver bullet. It's still true today that, we want to focus on the essence of software engineering, not the accidents. So the accidents are all your syntax and your code, and whether it's C++ or C# or managed or compiled TypeScript, compiled Java, compiled Flutter, Python, those are all the accidents of what we do. And for the most part, the essence is, what are the products we're trying to build? What are the problems we're trying to solve? And I can tell you that number one, AI is going to help us solve a ton more problems. So we've just started in terms of where we're going. I'm parked at the golf course, but before I leave, I just wanted to finish the thought. Like I see, again, it's about what we do as software engineers that we need to get back to. Yes, you're going to see a lot of complaining, and you have a right to complain about the state of affairs. The other thing is like, I'm seeing that like founder stories are much different than, let's say, enterprise environments. So I think people are frustrated in enterprises because there's probably not a lot of direction in terms of AI. A lot of projects probably got started with, and I'm just going to take a wild guess, one of your directors decided that we're not going fast enough with Agile and we need to bring in Palantir to do a proof of concept for a project, or I need to bring in Deloitte or an Accenture. It doesn't really matter who it is, but you've been embarked on a couple of POCs. And so the problems with some of these things is just classic enterprise, where you have a billion tools, a billion vendors. And what happened was either the POC went really well and it became a product, and you probably carved out a nice product area for a director, and that's still going strong. Or you're struggling with it and you're spending millions of dollars on a solution and you're still trying to figure it out, and maybe you pulled back in certain areas. And so you're limiting yourself to maybe just data science right now and traditional AI ML, but your LLM and agentic strategy, you need to like carve out a little bit more because you're probably grappling with, governance, security, a lot of things that just come for the ride, come with moving into prod and moving into a production environment for the ride, especially people associated or concerned with HIPAA, PII, right? So protected health information, individual person information about an individual, HIPAA rules about who can conduct, transmit, convey, store information about health records, how those health records are stored in databases, how those health records in HIPAA, PII and PHI are transmitted to a model if it's outside your organization, which is why I'm kind of bullish on the strategies now are looking at keeping the information in-house or at least still using things like Bedrock and other platforms where the information stays inside your own firewalls and isolated, right? So you have compute isolation, network isolation, but now you also have LLM isolation, if you will, and AI ops is going to be a thing now, right? So we're getting kind of, if you think about all the things I just said, it's getting bigger, not smaller. You still have to, people are still going to be responsible for these things. And so let me just end with some of the things that are invariants that are not going away, right? The invariants, things that are always true, is that number one, there's no silver bullet. Fred Brooks' essence and accidents in software engineering, that's not going away. We as an engineer should be focusing on solving problems and solving business problems. So if you find yourself complaining about the current state of affairs in your organization, number one, if you have a job right now and you're a career and you're doing AI, congratulations, you're in a good spot because you're probably on the forefront of software engineering in your organization. So I would say embrace that. And I would say focus on solving business problems, right? Number one. Number two is 100% AI code could happen. It might happen eventually, but you still need to have a human in the loop. You still need to have leads and engineering leads and software engineers approving code. You probably need to keep project managers and directors out of your code, even though probably some of them are very talented, but they probably need to have more of a principle and some ground rules. Like maybe you guys shouldn't be coding at midnight or 2 a.m. Maybe limit your policy to having a work-life balance so that you're not burning your engineers out. So if you're a director and you're a great coder and you're pushing your team around, pushing the envelope, but you're burning them out, then you actually now are causing problems in the organization. So the other invariants are, we're still going to need software engineers to review code and then write better specs, right? So we've always had spec-driven development, but now, we need to focus more of that up front for these AI agents to work with. And yes, it's non-deterministic because your specs now are a little bit more natural language-like. So you're writing natural language specs that the AI can break down into functional, non-functional, more data-structured specs. I would say where I've had success is definitely in writing specs, but also building a very, almost like a technical product owner on steroids, building very specific steps in terms of what an MVP, and I'm going to use that term strongly. Think of every release that you want to have. Think of that to your AI as you're building out an MVP release. So you can almost fake out not fake out your AI, but tell your AI, this is an MVP 1, MVP 2, MVP 3. These are the specs so that when you're done with one, you might have an idea, or you're close to done with MVP 1. You might have an idea that pops in your head and you say, oh, I really like this feature now. Let's build that, but let's make that MVP 2. So start building the building blocks for MVP 1. Or I want to add it to MVP 1. Let's update the spec, but then let's also carry forward into our MVP 2 discussion some of the things that I'm not going to be able to do today. So don't bloat your features out to the point where your code is just going to end up in a gigantic branch that's called MVP 1. So you still want to use topic level feature branches. You still want to do agile methods, if you will, with some AI sprinkled in to help you in your role. But I would say continue to write good specs, continue to write deterministic specs, and focus maybe on the models that do the best work for the type of environment or languages they're using. I found that Opus 4.8 is really good at Python, APIs, AWS, and it's also great at Flutter. I'm able to now drop back into auto mode after my product is developed. So I use ChatGPT for my high-level planning and plan mode and writing specs and thinking about coverage, the edge cases, things that you need to worry about as engineers, all the illities, stability, reliability, observability, all the illities you need to put maybe in your ChatGPT overall spec, and then break that down with Opus into a detailed spec. It talks about the actual features that you want to build and when. Break those down into MVP 1, 2, 3. Create feature topic branches if you're using GitHub so that if you have multiple engineers, people can not step on each other and agents won't step on each other. And I also don't use a lot of agents per se. I open up different repos in GitHub and I have several sessions going, but I try not to have those sessions stepping on each other. So while I'm a fan of agents, I'm not a big fan of multiple agents where you're 24/7 having it write code all night and you have no idea what it's doing. Totally not. That's not my style. So I think you have to understand your style. Are you comfortable with that? I'm not at that comfort level. So I don't want to misconstrue what I'm trying to say here that, yes, I understand how people are frustrated, but if you're going, big tennis racket on all these agentic approaches and styles and stuff, you're just going to overrun everybody. So there was always that case. There was always that software engineer that wrote a ton of code and killed everybody and probably annoyed the crap out of everybody. That's obviously not going away, and that's going to get worse with AI. But that always existed. We always had the person that would go out in front and refactor everybody's code for no reason at all. You need to be a team player. The best developers are egoless. They work together. There's collaboration. Yes, you're going to have certain people that are going to pull ahead. But if all you're doing is writing code and pushing down stuff onto people, then that's where, unfortunately, the drama in enterprises, it still continues where these guys get away with writing a ton of code that the product managers, the directors, the leads, the executive leadership, and the CEO didn't even care about. So they're paying this person to go and build all this crap that nobody cares about, and they pissed everybody off at the same time. So just getting back to closing out, I understand the frustrations going on and the tension between leaders, evangelists, builders, and then skeptics. I know that some of these roles are going to go away or morph. I would say try to embrace AI as much as possible. Go to where the hockey puck is going to be, not where it is. Models are going to get better. Our environment's going to get better. Our industry needed this change and shift, but it's also not the last time it's going to change and shift. And if you feel that you love coding, you can still code. You can still spend certain number of part of your day writing code versus what AI generates. You can also focus more on spec-driven development. You can focus more on architecture, which is where I am recently. Vision to execution is my slogan for my website. So from vision to execution, I want to solve problems because that's what I did when I was in startup companies before the internet and then during the internet, and then kind of settled in doing healthcare over the last 20 years. So I have a healthcare domain, but I'm kind of getting also back. I've always had, part of me is always thinking in terms of that startup mindset, which is you've got competitive intelligence, you've got this product intelligence and mindset. You want to understand what business users want. You don't want to build the world. You don't want to build something that's not maintainable, but you don't want to build the world and all the features because you'll never deliver it. You know, we've gone through all those changes. So let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. AI is here to stay. Embrace AI. Use it intelligently. You are still in charge of the deliverable. It's still you. It's not your agent. It's not the LLM that made the mistake. Take ownership in what you're doing. Build great software. If you're a skeptic and you've given up hope, I challenge you to come back to the latest model, frontier models, get on a plan and try to solve a business problem, or go start a small consumer SaaS company or a mobile application and build something that people want or that you want that you could potentially sell or add or a service, and continue to collaborate and work with your peers and work hard, play hard. And that's all I got for today. So thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.